It is the 20th of June 2019. You are in time for NTV Tonight. Thanks for joining us. These are the top stories.
Tonight, fear reigns in a seeming shortage of antiretroviral drugs, and babies are the worst hit.
Beginning of this month, we no longer have Zidovudin. So what will be the outcome? These babies will get HIV.
I decided to spend 3 days looking for this drug from one facility to the other.
Also tonight, billions of shillings worth of inflated compensation scandalously approved.
We depended on the information which the valuers give.
We reveal the implicated NLC officials.
Plus, after the Garissa attack ruling, the bereaved get some closure, but the pain lingers on.
For those ones who killed our children, it's only God who can forgive them.
And treated as darlings when they're needed, but jilted after the need is over.
Utapita mtu utamwomba 10, utamwomba 20, ili upate nini? Ifike wendo katumia madara.
The bourgeoisie, the political dinosaurs, influence our daily political decisions.
The youth, the pawns of the powerful.
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai and Smriti Vidyarthi.
We're sure glad you found time to join us on NTV Tonight. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atieno. To our top story. A number of medical facilities in the country have raised concern over a shortage of antiretroviral drugs in comprehensive care clinics.
Pediatric HIV prevention being most hit following the shortage of 2 key preventative drugs for 3 months now.
However, Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, has refuted the claims. NTV's Eunice Omolo starts us off.
Paul Ouma has been living with the HIV virus for 16 years now. He is among over 1 million Kenyans on ARVs as their lifeline. However, he recently experienced a challenge in his routine, a shortage of life-sustaining drugs in the form of ARVs at his regular clinic, and was forced to travel to Nairobi County from Homa Bay in search of these critical drugs.
I just came from Nairobi the other day. I decided to spend 3 days looking for this drug from one facility to the other. And I had, for me to take care of the shortfall, because I had to take my drug on time.
In Nairobi County, sources tell NTV that children born of HIV-positive mothers are at risk of contracting the virus due to lack of key prophylactics aimed at preventing the transmission of HIV from mother to child.
I have 400 babies. So that's a large number of babies. Huh? By 400 babies, I mean 400 babies whose mothers are infected, but the babies are negative as per the last PCR we did. Remember, we're giving the mothers 1 bottle. Unfortunately, beginning of this month, we no longer have Zidovudin. So the mothers come and go home the way they are with all the drugs. So what will be the outcome? These babies will get HIV.
According to National AIDS Control Council HIV estimates of 2018, there are 53,067 mothers on the prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV drugs, while 69,497 mothers are still in need of the program. Nevirapine and Zidovudin are key prophylactics in use to reduce transmission of the virus from HIV-positive mothers to babies.
So when it ran out of stock, our bosses said we start giving them Zidovudin. Zidovudin has a bottle of 240 mils. Remember, this Zidovudin, when the baby is born, we give out 1.5 times 2. That means this drug can stay for 6 weeks. But now we're giving up to 9 mils. So the bottle will run out of stock way before the 6 weeks.
A number of counties have been affected, with some medical facilities borrowing especially from private facilities that receive low numbers of HIV patients and donor-funded health facilities.
Same facility run out of stock of a certain drug. I borrow from the nearby facility through WhatsApp. Then that way you will find out It's no longer there.
Efforts by the healthcare givers to get to the bottom of the shortage of the key drugs have been frustrating, as it has been to the mothers who have to make unsuccessful trips to their health facilities for their young ones.
You lie to these mothers until it gets to your nerves. It starts frustrating them because you're telling them to come next week, and next week when they come, you know very well it's not there. But you have to tell them so that to give them hope.
Some clients who are reliant on the key drugs have to part with cash whenever they look for the drugs in some private facilities. Sources indicate that Nairobi Coast and Nyanza counties are worst hit by the shortage, with some facilities having not received the drug for 3 months or more.
It will be a bad scenario. So it's critical that KEMSA comes in to supply the drugs on time.
The Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, has denied any shortage of the drugs in the country, stating that there is a likelihood that the facilities facing the shortage ordered amounts that could not meet their demands. Eunice Omolo, NTV, Nairobi.
Certainly a critical issue that government officials need to clarify, and also the way forward needs to be known. It's definitely a story that we will be keeping an eye on. Elsewhere now, the Department of Valuation at the National Lands Commission is on the spot for questionable compensation valuations in the construction of the standard gauge railway and roads.
The recent revelations of overvaluation of properties lying on the SGR Phase 2A corridor, indicating a scandal involving valuers at the NLC who conspired with property owners to defraud taxpayers billions of shillings through hiked compensation.
NTV's Seth Olale reveals the names of those who head the valuation department at the NLC and are also implicated in other alleged illegal compensation cases.
Salome Ludeni Munubi, the director of the Valuation and Taxation Committee at the National Lands Commission, together with their deputy Joash Oindo, are at the center of a multi-billion shillings compensation scandal involving overvaluation of lands meant for the construction of standard gauge railway and several roads in the country. In the recent SGR Phase 2A compensation scandal, extending from the Nairobi National Park to Suswa, valuers at NLC are being investigated for overvaluing property belonging to 93 project-affected persons that could have seen taxpayers lose up to 3.3 billion shillings. In one instance, a house valued by the multi-agency valuation team at 18 million shillings was overvalued by valuers at NLC more than 1,000 times more to cost 244 million shillings.
These are technical areas which were done by the valuers, so we depended on the information which the valuers give. As a CEO now, I only depend on the information that I get from the valuers. So I'm not the technical person to go to the field and do this. But
the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has stopped the payments of project-affected persons, claiming over 10 million shillings as compensation. An inter-ministerial meeting chaired by Fred Matiang'i on 5th February 2019 resolved that the NLC, Ministry of Lands and ESCC scrutinized the contentious 3.3 billion shillings compensation for purposes of accuracy and authenticity.
With this one now, the ESCC have their own values. So I had suggested to them that we bring, their valuers and my valuers, we work together and we see whether what we have is really overvalued or is within the market value.
Salome Ludeni Munubi, Josh Oindo and 15 other senior National Lands Commission officials were in April this year charged in an anti-corruption court with conspiracy to commit an offense of corruption, namely fraud, thereby causing a loss of public funds belonging to Kenya Railways Corporation amounting to 221 million shillings in fraudulent compensation for land acquired by the Commission for the construction of the Mombasa Southern Bypass and Kipevu New Highway Container Terminal Link Road in 2013. The land belonging to Tornado Carriers Limited was initially valued at 34 million shillings in 2015, but the commission, which was acquiring the piece of land on behalf of the Kenya National Highway Authority, ended up paying 109 million shillings, The Director of Valuation and Taxation Committee was accused of unlawfully facilitating the payment of 221 million shillings as compensation for 4 properties which were public land and causing the loss of public money. The 2 suspects at the heart of these payments remain at NLC and continue to draw salaries. By the time the bulldozer was paving way for the construction of the continuation of the standard gauge railway at Nkoroi area in Kajiado County, taxpayers were losing an estimated 21 million shillings daily as payment to the contractor for failing to access the site and as well as idle capacity. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi County.
Definitely another story that we will be following up on. And on to something that we highlighted yesterday, given the developments from the court. The over 4-year journey to find justice and closure for families affected by the Garissa terrorist attack came to some sort of an end yesterday as the Milimani court sealed the fate of the 4 suspects.
Well, some families of the 148 people, mainly students, have welcomed the ruling, saying justice has been served. NTV spoke to 2 families in Bungoma County who lost their kin in the horrific tragedy. Here's their story.
The journey to healing has been slow and painful for Nelima Namisi after the demise of her son, Branton Ohugu, in April 2015, who was a second-year student at Garissa University College. He died under a hail of bullets from the barrel of a terrorist gun. He wanted to be somebody and be the voice of reason. Those dreams were shattered. 5 years on, Nelima says, although she is much stronger now, she has never really overcome grief.
What we had put in Tony, we had trust that he will also graduate one day and come to assist us. The death of our son has never been so easy to us. We have never coped with it.
A few kilometers from Nelima's home, we meet Godfrey Wekesa. His life has been filled with gloom since his grandson left home never to return. And the sight of the grave in the homestead makes it even harder, a constant reminder of a life gone too soon. Tobias Simiyu was a second-year business administration student at Garissa University College. He was only 23. He hoped to pursue a PhD someday, but he was not able to fulfill his dreams.
Na huyo mtoto mimi ndiye nimepeleka yeye kuanzia nursery mpaka kwa mahali alikuwa amefika university. Wangekuwa wananisaidia saa hii. Lakini tunawachwa tu hivyo.
Families who lost their loved ones during the attack have waited for 5 years to see if justice will finally be delivered for the loss of their loved ones. The judgment has offered little, if any, reprieve to affected families.
If justice will prevail, I, as mother of Tony, I'll be very happy. For those ones who killed our children, for us we can say we forgive. But what hits us back is not so easy.
Waweze kufungwa na iwe funzo kwa wengine wakijiingiza kwa vitu kama hiyo haitakuwa ni mzuri.
For the families, there has been a sense of closure at the end of a case that has dragged on for nearly 5 years. Rozongoi, NTV.
Well, comfort to all the families affected by that terrible attack. Well, it is technology that led to the conviction of those conspirators in the 2015 Garissa University terror attack.
NTV's features editor, Brenda Wanga, who was in court as the judgment was delivered, tells us that the court relied on mobile phone records to link the convicted terrorists to the attackers who killed students inside the hostels.
In a packed courtroom, the magistrate conveyed the gravity of the horror visited upon the students of Garissa University 4 years ago, accounts he heard during the trial that is now nearing completion.
Evelyn and these other students went through is a horror. Only God knows how they survived.
By the time the guns fell silent, the lives of 148 people had been snuffed out in one of the most brutal terror attacks in Kenya. 4 of the attackers were also killed in the same hostel.
20 AK-47 magazines were also recovered from the attackers, as well as 713 rounds of live ammunition. There were also 1,929 spent cartridges collected from across the compound.
Security agencies believe that an attack of that magnitude must have been conducted in conjunction with people outside the university. Indeed, the conspirators were well on their way to freedom, save for technology and a twist of fate. Two of them, Mohammed Ali Abdikadir and Hassan Aden Hassan, were betrayed by their phones. On the day of the attack, detectives recovered mobile phones and a number of SIM cards from one of the deceased attackers. An analysis of phone logs of the accused showed that the two had been in communication through their phones with the phone number 0725 933 614. That SIM card had been in a phone that had been retrieved from the body of one of the attackers. The fifth accused, Rashid Charles Mberesero, was flushed from under a bed in Elgon Hostel after all the survivors had been rescued. He could not explain why he was there and whether he was a student, but it was a booklet found in his belongings that sealed his conviction.
I find no other logical explanation other than that he was part of the attackers and that it is most probable that he had learned the university grounds well, and he is the one who led the attackers specifically to the hostels where their targets, the students, were.
Their conviction on conspiracy to commit an act of terror, committing an act of terror, and belonging to a terrorist group based on the prosecution piecing together circumstantial evidence that convinced the court of their participation. The court will once more hear from the victims' families and survivors as they give the impact statement before deciding what sentence the three will serve. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
And to another family that's seeking justice, or at least a case that we've been following up, the delivery of a judgment in a case where a Kenya prison sergeant was charged with killing a 22-year-old lady, Maureen Gachagua, in July 2018, was today delayed after the sergeant failed to turn up in court.
Kenya Prisons officer Dismas Gitenge's lawyer said he was unwell and that his family had attended court to confirm his whereabouts.
Defense lawyer Danston Omari told the court that the presence of Gitenge's family was to confirm his whereabouts, but the prosecution asked the court to issue an arrest warrant because there were no official documents to prove the claim.
The court postponed the judgment to next Monday, with the defense expected to present hospital documents as a mandatory requirement.
Gitenge faced 3 criminal charges, including causing death by dangerous driving, failing to stop after an accident, and giving false information to a police officer.
The victim's family, however, suspect foul play following Gitenge's no-show in court today. All right, to another of our top stories now, and with Kenya's bulging youth population, as many as 500,000 young people are reported to enter the job market each year.
Scarcity of employment opportunities to absorb these new entrants has, however, created widespread concern around youth unemployment.
Well, Julian Amboko now takes us through the numbers to get a sense of how grave the situation is. Julian.
And now let's unpack unemployment by the numbers. If you're between the age of 15 and 64 years old, actively searching for employment opportunities without securing any, then you fall within the unemployed category. Data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics shows that we have a little over 1.4 million unemployed people in the country, of which, given a labor force of 19.3 million people, translates to an unemployment rate of 7.4%. And now let's dig deeper into those numbers. 85% of the 1.4 million unemployed persons are between the ages of 15 and 34, as you can see from this pie chart. In other words, the youth bear the brunt of unemployment in Kenya. Now, this shines a spotlight on the need to place the question of youth unemployment at the center of policy making, as was done in the budget this year. Moving on, according to data from the World Bank, Kenya's youth unemployment rate stands at 18%, having posted a general decline, as you can see, over the last 5 years. This refers to the number of youth who are actively scouting for work without getting any as a proportion of the total youth who are working. They say numbers don't lie, but they do conflict. And this is why data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics conflicts with the World Bank's 18%, putting the youth unemployment rate at 11.4%. Now, that is really critical. Now, something equally intriguing around unemployment in Kenya, and youth unemployment in particular, is that it predominantly afflicts women. Now, 65% of Kenya's unemployed youth are women. that you can see from this chart, with women being represented by this orange shade. This is according to government statistics, which show that there are about 790,000 unemployed women between the ages of 15 and 34. Now, many would be asking at this point, why do we have such high unemployment when the economy is recorded to be posting some of the fastest growth rates in about a decade? Why is there a disconnect between a rapidly growing economy on one hand and pervasive youth unemployment? I pose this question to John Mutua, the head of Public Finance Management Program at the Institute of Economic Affairs, and this is what he had to say.
So people are asking, if, given that we've grown from 4.9% to 6.3%, where are the jobs? We all know that actually Kenya is largely informal. Over 80% of jobs are increasingly being created in the informal sector, and the informal sector is actually characterized by mainly by low wages. And so maybe that's one of the reasons why these jobs are not seen. And obviously what reports show is that for that trickle-down effect to be felt, growth has to be sustained.
Now, the issue of the informal economy notwithstanding, some analysts have argued there is need to scale up human capacity with a view to addressing the unemployment challenge in Kenya. 35% and 30% of unemployed persons stopped formal schooling at secondary and primary school levels respectively, something viewed to stifle their attractiveness in the job market. Of the unemployed again, 12% have no formal education whatsoever, while 9% have a university degree. And that is the picture of unemployment as painted by the numbers.
No one better to break down the numbers than Julian's Amboko, because he is comfortable with numbers. Although these are numbers we are uncomfortable with in Kenya. It's not just in this country. Unemployment, especially among the youth in Africa, remains one of the biggest challenges facing the continent's growth and development.
Well, here in Kenya, the government is banking on partnership with the MasterCard Foundation to connect at least 5 million young people to dignified jobs by 2022.
The new Young Africa Works initiative, unveiled today by President Uhuru Kenyatta, is expected to equip the youth with digital and vocational skills and enhance creation, growth, sustainability and productivity of over 200,000 micro, small and medium enterprises in the infrastructure, agriculture, manufacturing, financial services and digital economy sectors. Partners in the public-private partnership are confident it will be a game changer.
It will support TVETs to improve quality of content and instruction, providing 21st century employability skills and demand-driven training that is relevant to the labor market, and create pathways to work for graduates, including internships and apprenticeships.
We want to help realize the vision of the Ajira program by working with the private sector. And we will start by working with KEPSA and innovators like Immobilis to make available digital training to young people where they live.
In a 2015 study by Geopol, Kenyan youth cited lack of funding as one of the biggest challenges facing their businesses. And to this end, KCB Group and Equity Bank Group are expected to provide more than 100 billion shillings in credit over the period.
When small firms and entrepreneurs access financial services, they obtain the resources they require to grow, expand into new markets and opportunities. It will also create jobs and establish intergenerational wealth. The benefits then create a ripple effect which generates employment for others beyond.
According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, about 33% of Kenyans are either unemployed or underemployed. In 2018, the Kenyan economy is estimated to have created more than 840,000 jobs, about 83% of that being in the informal sector. Victor Kiprop, NTV.
Well, you know what they say, kazi kwa vijana, pesa kwa wazee. I hope that will be a saying of the past and not a reality of the future going forward. Time for a break.
That's right, but here's what's coming up. Treated as darlings when they're needed, but jilted after the need is over. Our special focus on the youth, the pawns of the powerful, continues after the break.
The Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Public Service, Youth and Gender, Professor Margaret Kobia, welcomes you to the Africa Public Service Day celebrations from Friday 21st to Sunday 23rd June 2019 at the KICC. Africa Public Service Day is celebrated in recognition of the invaluable role of public service in the development of the continent. We invite you to visit the exhibition and interact and network with participants drawn from African Union member states.
Masai and Smriti Vidyarthi.
Welcome back, and our focus remains on the youth. Despite the launch of several funds and programs to support youth projects and offer employment to youth in the country, unemployment rates remain high.
There is a sizable number of youth who say that it is hard for them to trust the government and state agencies, which they say claim to have their interests at heart. Yet, the programs launched to benefit the youth end up benefiting other individuals, leaving the youth jobless.
Is the Kenyan youth being used by those in power to benefit themselves? Daniel Mule reports.
The government has often promised opportunities to the youth, including a 30% allocation for all tenders to the youth, women and the disabled. Today, when launching a new employment program for the youth that is partly funded by the MasterCard Foundation, President Uhuru Kenyatta's latest assurance about the youth was served.
My administration is taking bold action to eliminate the barriers that prevent our young people from reaching their full potential.
It came a day after State House spokesperson Kanzadena outlined the president's plans and achievements in ensuring youth get jobs. The Youth Enterprise Fund, one of those expected to offer loans to youth practicing entrepreneurship, has been questioned by the youth and experts. The inappropriate allocation of 10 million shillings to 4 youth groups by the fund in 2016 raised even more questions.
Corruption iko juu sana. Ile pesa imetengea miradi ya vijana ndio inakula na wale wazee kwa serikali.
hivi kwamba vijana watapata ile pesa.
Our maximum loan we give is 5 million now, and we took a very conscious decision to reduce this from the previous 20 million.
Kia kwa ofisi ya youth, ule karani utapata pale ni youth officer and youth, lakini ikifika pale juu ule mtu anafaa akuwe na ile mafikira ya ile youth, unapata ni mzee.
It is not enough, and therefore we will not say that enough is being done, but it is progress.
Kama mimi ni kijana nimejiajiri, anipe fund nijiimprove mimi mwenyewe, lakini sasa hii maneno kutuambia youth fund ati lazima muapply mkiwa wengi, haileti shangwe.
By the time some of these funds are put in place, they are meant to be able to trickle down to the level that they're supposed to go. But the problem is the value chain. You find that between where the fund is and the common mwananchi, there are like 10-20 people. And all the 10-20 people are interested to either find their own people or pull a few people, or they have, there's also a system weakness where they find that there's a way that they can be able to circumvent the system.
We have invested in training our staff to ensure that they are reaching out to more young people, particularly those in areas perceived to be hard to reach.
The National Youth Service lost billions of shillings through corruption, denying thousands of youth an opportunity to benefit from the program. A majority of the youth feel the politicians and powerful use them to climb the ladder and then dump them. That, they say, pushes them to taking handouts to serve the politicians' agenda during campaigns.
They make some of our youths to even lose their life because they engage themselves in something like a fight.
So we are being told as youth, we are the leaders of tomorrow. That tomorrow, it doesn't come to pass.
Officials at the fund blame youth for laziness, saying some of them fail to secure loans because of failure to give the basic minimum explanation on what they intend to use it for. Daniel Mule, NTV.
For answering all the... Well, staying with the subject, whenever a general election approaches, young, youthful and energetic aspirants use the Change platform as bait to woo voters. In the last 2 general elections, Kenyans have managed to vote a good number of youthful MPs into Parliament.
But as it turns out, the same MPs are turning into a big disappointment. As a majority leader in the National Assembly, Aden Duale states, NTV's Jane Guerre looks at the young parliamentarians let down.
As was the case in the 11th Parliament, the 12th Parliament has equally managed to bring on board a high number of young MPs who were catapulted into national politics, riding on the platform of change, or rather being game changers in the legislature.
Order, members.
For instance, this is what first-time Nyali legislator Muhammad Ali posted on social media on 3rd September 2017, promising to be the public watchdog inside Parliament, a post that remains just that. National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale, the leader of government business in the House, is disappointed with the dismal performance of youthful MPs.
The Committee of the Whole House is the single most item on the order paper where serious legislation and lawmaking takes place. How many of us are in the House? We are hardly 35. We are hardly 50. So where are they? The House is empty. So you cannot blame, they have taken legislation to funerals and to rallies.
I'm addressing the nation, including you.
But one of the young MPs, Sabotis Caleb Amisi, disagrees with Duale and defends fellow youthful MPs.
We have these challenges of young people finding themselves, whether by choice or by design, but you find ourselves making or shying away from defending the youth of this country simply because we fear our masters, we fear our political parties.
South Migrango Silvanos Osoro is another young MP actively engaged in politics outside Parliament but not in the House.
At times, we might not really sit in Parliament to completion. There is a lot that we do. The way our system is crafted, we need to lobby for us to get development. Lobbying does not mean sitting in Parliament.
In a bid to untangle himself from the web of non-performers in Parliament, Starehe Member of Parliament Charles Jaguar defends himself, stating that he has a progressive bill under his belt.
And I've come up with a motion meant to reduce retirement age from 60 to 50, because I do believe that one of the ways that will create employment for the youth.
In a country where the majority of the population is composed of youth, the burden on the shoulders of young leaders to push the youth agenda should ideally be heavy, but it appears Kenya's crop of young leaders has chosen to cast that burden away. Jane Gwiri, NTV.
As the youth like to say, changamkeni. The case against city lawyer Asa Nyakundi has been pushed to Friday to allow his lawyers and the prosecution time to argue whether he should take a fresh plea or not.
Court Judge James Wakiaga gave the orders, pushing the case by one more day after lawyers representing Nyakundi opposed the decision by the prosecution to charge him with murder.
The defense argued that the matter could not proceed as had been proposed by the prosecution, since an earlier charge of manslaughter against Nyakundi was pending at the Kiambu Magistrates Court.
The prosecution has also asked the court to subject Nyakundi to a mental assessment test before he takes a plea.
Nyakundi, who is accused of shooting his son to death, has been out on bond. The Kiambu court is expected to give orders on the withdrawal of the manslaughter charges next month.
Elsewhere, police arrested a former 2013 presidential aspirant after they found 445 kilograms of bang in his vehicle.
Yep, you heard right. You probably don't remember him, but after this story you will. 45-year-old Jaffer Isaac Sora was stopped by police at a roadblock near Marsabit for search, which he refused.
Well, the police officers manning the roadblock were alarmed by the refusal of the driver to let them conduct their search. They arrested him and towed his vehicle to the Marsabit police station, where they searched the car and found the bang inside, and it was plastered with campaign pictures.
Campaign pictures, maybe some nostalgia. The bang, valued at 13.3 million, is alleged to have been sourced from Ethiopia. According to Eastern Region Police Boss Esther Kihiko, Sora was ferrying the drugs in his Toyota Prado trailer.
Well, Ms. Kihiko said that he will be arraigned on Thursday. All right, it is time for a breather now on NTV Tonight, but there is plenty more coming up.
That's right. Including a GEM MP to table bill that will require mobile service operators to apply for different licenses for the different services they provide. What will this mean for you? Details coming up in Business with Dan Wangi.
The county government of Kajiado, with the approval of His Excellency Joseph Olelenku, would like to notify
Good evening and welcome to NTV Business. My name is Dan Mwangi. Now, mobile phone service providers will pay you 10 shillings for every call that drops. Now, this is if a bill set to be tabled in Parliament by GEM MP, that is Elisha Odhiambo, sails through as is. Another key focus of the proposed legislation is to rein in dominance in the telecommunications sector. NTV's Kennedy Mureithi reports that the bill now awaits introduction in the House next week.
Major market players in the telecommunication industry rendering money transfer services will soon be forced to get a different license for that particular service if a bill to be introduced in Parliament next week sails through and becomes law. The bill, the Kenya Information and Communications Amendment Bill 2019, sponsored by GEM MP Elisha Odhiambo, seeks to break the big telecommunication industries in the country and have them pay different taxes for the different businesses they engage in by having them get different licenses.
According to the Competition Act, when you become a major player in a sector and you're competing, you're not allowed a level of monopoly.
The bill proposes the introduction of a new Section 25A, which says in part, in addition to operating a telecommunication system or providing a telecommunication service, as may be specified in the license granted under Section 25, a person may engage in any other business provided that such person shall obtain the relevant licenses from the respective regulators of any industry or sector ventured into. They should also legally split or separate the telecommunication business from such other businesses and provide separate accounts and reports in respect of all businesses carried out. The bill continues to say that anyone who fails to meet these requirements is liable to a fine not exceeding 10 million shillings or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or both.
This bill that I propose to ensure that when your call drops, the telephone companies refund you.
The bill is also proposing a radical move to set up a compulsory universal fund that will be under close scrutiny of Parliament. In amending Section 84J, the bill proposes that 6% of the fund shall be used for ensuring the availability of telecommunication services to all consumers, including those in the low-income and rural areas. 20% of the fund shall be used for increasing access to telecommunications and advanced services in schools, libraries, and rural healthcare facilities. The bill is expected to be tabled on Wednesday next week. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV.
The Central Bank of Kenya Governor Patrick Njoroge has maintained that there will not be an extension of the October 1st deadline to switch to the new currency, arguing that an extension beats the purpose of the exercise. The banking regulator has also introduced a mobile application that details the new currency features, a measure intended to familiarize Kenyans with the notes so as to curb circulation of fake money.
There won't be an extension. If you have an extension, it defeats the purpose. It defeats the purpose. So come midnight of the last day of September, and that's it. You have 3.5 months to worry about that. So there's no contemplation of an extension.
The app mentioned, however, is not yet available for the iPhone users. Now, Kenya has earned slightly over 10 billion shillings from its exported coffee in the 9 months to June, a 20% drop from the earnings of similar period in the previous crop year. This is despite the fact that the country sold 1.8 million kilograms of coffee more. The Nairobi Coffee Exchange reports that the low earnings are due to depressed prices on the international market, which dropped by an average of 24.67% from 21,575 shillings per 50 kilogram bag in May 2018 to 16,252 shillings in May 2019. Global prices of coffee have been taking a hit this season, dropping to a 12-year low. At the New York Exchange, prices dipped to a record low of 8 cents per pound. Main crop season has now ended, meaning that farmers could brace for even lower prices in the remaining months because of the quality of the beans presented for sale is likely to be lower. The promotion of regional or continental trade blocs is seen as one of the key ways of creating employment, especially for the youth. The trading blocs, such as the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, faces an uphill battle to enable small and medium enterprises to effectively participate in trade within the region. Alex Mwangi takes us there.
The Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, currently has 21 member states after Somalia and Tunisia joined last year. It is widely known that small and medium enterprises form the backbone of many economies globally. But when it comes to trading in regional blocs, many of them find it a challenge, primarily because of an information gap. I sought to find out from COMESA what it is doing in order to encourage wider participation by SMEs.
We have partnered with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in a project called the Digital Financial Inclusion for SMEs that's focusing on cross-border transaction payment systems for the micro SMEs in the first instance, especially at the border.
We had a local sourcing program where we were linking SMEs within the COMESA countries, their pilot countries, and Kenya was one of them, with the retail sector, with the hotel sector, and different outlets where they can supply their products. So out of that program, we've created a platform for linkages of different businesses.
The facilitation of SMEs to take advantage of regional trade opportunities is a matter that has proved problematic for policymakers, even as new strategies are put in place to address the problem.
We're planning to launch an SME hub within the Kenya Association of Manufacturers on the 4th of July, which will look at what are the bouquet of services and products we can offer to incubators, accelerators, and scale.
The Trade and Commerce officials spoke in Nairobi during a COMESA meeting for Ministers of Industry and another for Ministers of Infrastructure. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Well, that's it for business. I'm done. But coming up, Boda Boda operators in Kisumu are angry at their county government and they have made it known. We shall make their frustrations known to you as well.
You in the pollution? Yes, you. Dry throat? Strepsils. Gal in the smoke with a raspy voice? Strepsils. Hello, in the downpour with a scratchy throat? Take Strepsils. Get soothing relief for any throat irritation.
Welcome back. Several motorcycle operators in Kisumu today took to the streets to protest against a 16 shillings levy introduced by the county government.
The angry operators disrupted businesses in the Central Business District for close to an hour as they marched to Governor Anyang' Nyong'o's office to register their grievance.
Our man on the ground, Okokusa, reports.
We want pay. We want pay, they chanted. And their reason for taking the tough stand is...
Gavana wetu alituambia wakati alikuwa na kampeni ya kwamba atalipisha watu wa nini, watu wa pikipiki. Sasa sasa ameingia kwa ofisi anataka kulipisha watu wa pikipiki. Kwani alikuwa anatudanganya ama alikuwa anatufanyia nini? Hatutalipa tax hapa Kisumu.
Tunaambia Gavana Nyong'o ya kwamba apende asipende, sisi hatutalipa ushuru kama wanabodaboda, na tunamwambia ya kwamba tukikutana na mtu yeyote wa county government akishika mtu wetu tutakutana na yeye head on.
This is not the first time the motorcyclists are declining to pay the taxes. In 2017, the then Governor Jack Ranguma was forced to put on hold the implementation of the same after the operators protested and threatened him with dire political consequences.
It is supposed to be done in a public dialogue. After kufanya dialogue, unafanya consultation. After kufanya consultation, tunapewa time ya kwenda for public participation in the ward level. Kwa sababu
attempts by Governor Nyong'o's government to introduce the levy in July 2018 also met another stiff opposition from the operators. The county government hopes to raise more than 200 million shillings from the sector, which boasts of at least 35,000 registered operators.
Tunataka tukilipa ushuru watuambie ni nini na nini wamepanga kufanya na wafanye kwanza ndio tulipe ushuru.
The decision of whether to pay or not to pay has split the motorcyclists and other traders in the town right in the middle, with some of the operators and street vendors siding with the county government. Okokusa, NTV.
From Kisumu, we take another break here on NTV tonight.
We do, and the sports news is coming up with days to the continental showpiece. Kenyans' eyes are on Harambee Stars on the expectations after a 15-year absence on NTV Sport.
The Cabinet Secretary.
in their base in Cairo, Egypt, as the continental showpiece draws ever so close. Harambee Stars, who arrived in Cairo on Tuesday, continued training with coach Sebastian Minye boosted by the return to health of midfielder Ayub Timbe and defender Musa Mohammed. Kenya, who will be taking part in the tournament for the first time in 15 years, played 2 friendly matches in Europe, winning 1-0 against Madagascar and drawing 1-1 with the Democratic Republic of Congo. The team will open their Group C campaign against Algeria on Sunday night.
It's an opportunity for other players to show their qualities. I'm not sure, under the pressure with this kind of event, what kind of reaction we can have on the field against strong team.
Motivation cause unapata kila mtu ndio mara yake ya kwanza kuparticipate, so tunataka kukua hapa even more often, so ni challenge tumekuwa look forward for a very long time.
We want them to give a good account of themselves to show that Kenyan soccer has come of age. That Kenya can play high quality soccer at the African level.
And as the excitement builds up and the nation is expectant, your favorite newspaper, The Daily Nation, is set to give you a full dose of the AFCON fever. In your Daily Nation tomorrow, get yourself an in-depth, incisive pullout that captures Harambee Stars in all its glory. Be sure to get your copy tomorrow morning. Moving on, our Africa Cup of Nations defending champions Cameroon face a tough test to defend their title and are way down the list of the bookies' favorites. With a day to the kickoff of the African showpiece, we focus on Group F that, apart from Cameroon, also has 4-time champions Ghana, Benin and Guinea-Bissau.
Road to AFCON 2019 in association with GoTV.
President of CAF hands it over to the president.
Cameroon, who have not hosted the event since 1972, will be hoping to put away the blushes of being stripped the AFCON 2019 hosting rights and defend their title in Egypt. Former Dutch international club did of festivals. Michel Dussier. Stefan Sissignon, with 74 caps for his flag, will captain the side, having starred for the nation at both the 2008 and 2010 editions of the Africa Cup of Nations. Sissignon plays a variety of positions as a forward, a winger and as a midfield playmaker. In their second appearance at AFCON, Guinea-Bissau, having finished as Group K winners in the qualifying stage, will be hoping to carry the momentum to Egypt. Their coach Basiro Chande has set a quarter-final berth as their target, having finished in their group stage in their last performance. Group F matches kick off on the 25th with the champions Cameroon facing Guinea-Bissau, while Ghana take on Benin. Both matches will be at the Ismailia Stadium in Ismailia.
Road to AFCON 2019 in association with GoTV.
Experience the unforgettable with the Total Africa Cup of Nations with SuperSport on GoTV. GoTV, live it, love it.
And just an update on Cameroon, the players have refused to board a plane to Egypt, demanding to be paid their bonuses, saying that they need to be paid before they go to Egypt because they've been selected to represent Cameroon. So we wait to see how that will pan out as they risk some punishment from CAF, since they should be there by tonight. Moving on, FIFA is set to take over the running of African football starting August in the wake of corruption scandals consuming the federation that is CAF. The CAF Executive Committee took the unprecedented decision to cede control and have FIFA General Secretary Fatma Samura brought in as FIFA General Delegate for Africa. Samura will take over the running of CAF from August to January with the possibility of a renewal. The idea of sending Samura to head CAF is said to have been put together by FIFA President Gianni Infantino and CAF Vice President Amadou Pinnick in the wake of Ahmad's brief detention by French police last week for questioning over corruption allegations. And World and Africa Under-20 champion in 5,000 meters, Edward Zakayo, is optimistic that he will be in the team that will represent Kenya in the upcoming Africa Games, which will be held in Rabat, Morocco, come August. 17-year-old Zakayo came in second in the second semi-final heat during the Athletics Kenya trials, which started today at Kasarani Stadium. Robert Kiprop won in a time of 13 minutes and 44.1 seconds, as Letaya Simon was third. Richard Kimunyan won the first heat. Emmanuel Korir, who usually participates in 800 meters, qualified for the 400 meters final after winning the semi-final heat 1, while Alphas Kishoyan won heat 2. Mary Mora won 400 meters semi-final heat 1, as Helen Siombua was victorious in heat 2.
Matarajio yangu ni Jumamosi, siku ya finali, na hapo ndio itakuwa mara yangu ya kwanza kukimbia katika Senior Championship Trials.
Naomba Mungu tukifika katika finali niwe mmoja wao kuingia kwa timu yenye inaenda Morocco.
It will also depend, on my results. If I will do good, maybe in Olympics. So I will have to weigh, if I'm going to run 400 to 800 meters.
Kenya napenda tu sana ni represent Kenya kwa World Africa Games, which is I hope I can't fail. Siwezi fail. Kama sijakuja na gold, nakuja na silver.
In each of these we have many hits, right? Which means that we have a lot of young people that are extremely talented, but are also courageous enough, right, to come forward. They are not afraid of coming forward to be tested and to participate in the trials.
Kesho natarajia bado wanaendelea kufanya semis and the finals on Saturday. Na Saturday ndachua itakuwa moto kabisa, kwa maana naona vijana wengi wako, wale professional athletes, wale wamekuja, itakuwa team sawa.
And the national finals of the Chapadimba na Safaricom Youth Tournament kicked off today with quarterfinal games played at the Kinoru Stadium, and that is ASK Showgrounds in Meru County. In the girls' quarterfinals, Nairobi's Akakoro ladies edged Ndiwa Queens from Nyanza 3-2. Central's Barcelona ladies crushed St. Mary's Ndovea from Eastern 4-0, while Kitale Queens from Rift Valley and Changamwe ladies from Coast advanced to the semi-finals, courtesy of a walkover and a bye respectively. In the boys' quarterfinals, Rift Valley's Al Ahly from Rift beat Berlin FC from Northeastern 3-1. Nairobi's South B United edged Shimanzi Youth from Coast 1-0. Lugari Blue Saints from Western shut out Super Soliko from Eastern 3-0. And Nyanza champions Manyata thrashed Euronats from Central 4-1. All right, that's the sport. A lot more tomorrow, but for now, have a lovely night. Back to you, Mark and Smriti.
Thank you, Brian Otwal and the sports desk for wrapping it up for us on NTV tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Masai. Good night.
Thanks to Flora Atieno, our sign language interpreter, and to you. Bye-bye.